Hello and welcome. My name is Jason Arden. Today I'm with John Scibello. He is a sophomore here at Merritt University and plays on the lacrosse team. So let's get right into it. You play lacrosse here, obviously, and can you tell me about how you started it, your motivation to play it into college as well?
So I started playing lacrosse in second grade, I believe, and no really reason to start it. I always played sports all my life growing up, and it was kind of just looked interesting to me, and then I grew to love it, and I just wanted to play in college just because I love the sport, and I mean I've met some of my best friends here at Marywood, and then it also went along with the major architecture very well, just so I could kind of play both at the same time. Because I was going into high school, I definitely knew I wanted to play in college, and I wanted to be an architecture student. Kind of, I had the idea of it, and Marywood just offered both of them, so kind of worked out.
Might as well come here to do both of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that you played other sports growing up. Can you talk about other sports you played?
Yeah. So I first started out playing basketball when I was really young, and then I really got into football and lacrosse in my, I would say, elementary, middle school years. And then after that, I eventually started wrestling into high school. But then I ended up stopping wrestling just so I could focus more on lacrosse.
So lacrosse was your sport. That was,
Yeah.
you loved that the most.
Kind of just stuck with me the whole way, yeah.
So if I ask what your favorite sport was,
Lacrosse,
lacrosse.
definitely,
Fair
yeah.
enough. Would you say that there's any sport that you've played or that you've not played that's more difficult than lacrosse?
I definitely think hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things in the world, and golf. I definitely think golf is one of the hardest sports. I kind of started playing it over the last summer, and it's been one of the most difficult things to pick up.
Fair
So,
enough. Could you explain why, maybe?
it's really just about it's the most mental sport, I think, because it's hitting a small golf ball with a small club face, and if you can't do it and you don't have a good mental mindset going into it, you're not really gonna succeed, I feel like.
Yeah, and I
So-
guess it's all like a game of millimeters pretty much
Yeah.
as they're going through. But I watch lacrosse, and I mean, I think it's pretty difficult in its own right.
Yeah, no,
What kind of
definitely.
preparation goes into becoming like an elite athlete at the D3 level? Sorry.
Well, I have been playing sports all my life, so I definitely think playing multiple sports helps with that, just so you get a mindset of every single sport. And a lot of sports actually tie into lacrosse, just because I did play soccer at one point too, and that has a lot to do with lacrosse, just the movement of play, going back and forth constantly. And then basketball definitely helped a lot. I ended up playing box lacrosse, which is incredibly similar to how basketball is played. And it definitely helped tie together becoming a pretty good lacrosse player, I would say.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say there's a specific sport that's the most similar to lacrosse?
I would say soccer and basketball. I mean, basketball more so with box lacrosse, but it definitely ties in with how the players are playing together to get to, I guess you could say, the net or the goal.
And on the opposite end, is there a sport you think is the most different than lacrosse? And you can
Lacrosse
take your
is
time on
very-
this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Lacrosse is a very versatile sport, so football has to do with it just because of the contact and stuff. I mean, if I could say one sport, it would definitely be golf, just because there's no really contact, and you're kind of playing by yourself
Mm-hmm.
rather than with your entire team. But I would say there's a good amount of sports that are very different from it, but at the same time, I think they're all tying together to
Right.
the same point.
Could you talk about maybe some of the similarities you'd see in different sports? So you mentioned basketball and lacrosse. You can
Mhm.
talk about what the simulators are in that.
So the pace of play, definitely going back and forth, like I said. With box lacrosse, it's a lot of pick and rolls and getting kind of the open space just the slightest bit to get to the goal. And I think in basketball, it's a lot of nitty gritty kind of passes that you have to make to get to the actual basket. And also, the pick games that I said, box lacrosse is 5v5, so is basketball. So a lot of the movement going up and down the court is the same thing. You get breakaways and like in basketball where you get settled play. And yeah, I think they're definitely very similar.
So in my gallery, I have you diving to score a goal. I don't know lacrosse terminology, but
Okay,
I
yeah.
have you diving to score, and then I have a volleyball player diving to hit the ball.
Oh, okay.
So other than that, would you say there's any similarities you'd think between lacrosse and volleyball?
Definitely communication. Communication is a huge thing in every sport, I think. And if you're not on the same page with your teammates, then you're not going to have much success. And I definitely think volleyball, because the ball's being hit to different parts and they have to communicate who's going to be under the ball at that point and then setting it for the next person. So I definitely think it's similar in communication-wise, because with lacrosse, you have to call out the plays. Everyone has to be on the same page, running the same exact play at the same time. And communication is definitely a big thing with all sports, I think. And I think volleyball and lacrosse, communication is a huge part of it.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. And one last question. So my overall project, as I mentioned before, is basically an exhibit about the similarities between different sports. So I have, I think, 7 or 8 different sports. And it's trying to show that at the end it's kind of all the same.
Yeah.
They all have a lot of similarities between them. So do you agree with that sentiment, and why would you agree with that?
I definitely agree with it, because I think that the environment of every single sport with the team, especially team sports, team-oriented sports, you have to work together. And if there's not a good environment, just like even if you're hanging out with your team, if people are, I feel like being close with your teammates is one of the most important things, just because it allows everyone to cohesively play together. And I think that if people aren't playing together, then it's not really going to work out for you. And I think that that's something like my team definitely succeeds in. I think we have a good environment in like on the field and off the field. So I think that it's one of the most important things, like just the environment of the team. You might not be the best team, but if you play good together, then you're going to succeed.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John Scibello, everyone. My exhibit will be April 22nd from noon till 2 down here in the basement. So come check it out. And thank you again for being on.
Thank you.
Yep.